So the purpose of this video is to provide you guys with the framework for thinking of why doing a shit ton of volume isn't necessarily the best when it comes to training for muscle growth. Before I get into it any deeper, there are some key terms that I want to define for you guys to understand thought process for why you should possibly think this way, or at least consider it. The first term I'm going to go into is volume, and volume is used to assess how much work is being done, whether that's in a workout or even throughout a week. In textbooks, you'll see the equation of just taking the sets times the reps times the weight to give you your total volume. There are a lot more factors that can help you figure out what volume is, but for the simplicity's sake for this video, I'm just going to use like total sets within a workout. Another term that is important to understand is intensity, and intensity is how we are measuring fatigue and how close you are training to failure for a given set. And there are a few different ways that we can measure this. And the first way is RPE, which stands for rating of perceived exertion. And this is on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 representing 100% effort. Like gun to your fucking head, you are not able to do another rep. That would be an RPE 10. The second way that we can monitor fatigue and assess where you are in relationship to failure is reps in reserve. And this is more of a judgment call for how many more reps you could have performed once the set is complete. So a 0 RIR means that you went to absolute failure and you could not do any more reps. It's not necessary to use both of these simultaneously to measure this within a workout, but the values associated with both RPE and RIR, they will add up to 10. So say you have a set where you're going to do RPE 10, that is 100% effort, you're not going to get any more reps, so at the end of that set, you would have 0 reps in reserve. RPE 9, like you're still training really fucking hard, but you're going to save 1 rep left in the tank or 1 RIR. And then it'll be 8 RPE, give you 2 RIR, and then that relationship continues down. And the third metric we can use to measure intensity is percent of 1 RM, or just like what percent of your 1 rep max are you using for an exercise. This is more specific to like powerlifting, but the relationship I want you to understand here is that the higher the percentage is, and we are closer to your 1 rep max, the greater the intensity of that exercise is going to be. So doing a set at 90% of your 1 RM compared to 75%, the intensity from rep 1 in each consecutive rep after will be significantly higher with the weight that is 90% compared to the 70% of your 1 RM. And I won't be referring to this one nearly as much throughout the video. And then the third term that I want to go over before we get any deeper is tension. And tension is created by your muscles pulling on the bones against your resistance of the exercise. So let's say like for a biceps curl, my biceps are creating tension by pulling my forearm up to lift that weight of the dumbbell. So tension itself is the most potent signal when it comes to muscle growth. And the harder that a muscle is contracting, the more tension that we are creating. And the goal for every workout should be to create what I'm going to use the term significant tension, which is dependent on the intensity of a set, which leads me into how all of these terms coincide with each other. So since the goal is creating significant tension, what does it mean to like get to that point? To create significant tension, we need to be training close to failure. And how do we train close to failure? We increase the intensity. And when looking at these two, their relationship is directly related. The line is not linear in real life terms, but I'm just using this to demonstrate their relationship. So as the intensity increases, so will tension. And as the intensity gets higher and higher, that leads us closer towards the goal of achieving what I'm using as significant tension. And the only way to create significant tension is to train with high levels of intensity. There is no other way to get to this level of tension. And significant tension is important, as once you get there, that will be the signal for muscle growth. And then the other relationship I want to go over is between volume and intensity, and these two are inversely related. So as one goes up, the other has to go down, or vice versa. So intensity is used to measure how close we are to training to failure, which is another way just to assess how much we are demanding from the nervous system. Our nervous system can only produce so much output before performance will drop. So I'm going to give you 2 examples here. Let's say that you are going just fucking balls to the wall every set during a workout, and each set you are taking that shit to like RPE 10, 0 reps in reserve. You cannot do any more reps during these sets. The amount of these sets you're going to be able to perform before your performance declines is going to be relatively low. But compare this to a workout to where, let's say, the example I'm going to use for these high volume workouts, let's say that you're doing like 6 exercises, 6 sets, like 15 to 20 reps. When these exercises are being performed, you are likely quitting way before you would fail. So like say 5 to 6 RPE or 4 to 5 reps in reserve. Essentially, you are staying fairly far away from failure. You're going to be able to maintain the performance for those sets. You're going to be able to do so many more of those sets before your performance declines compared to the prior example. Most workout programs are going to fall somewhere in between, where some of your sets are going to be easier than others, but also having those sets where you're just going fucking until the wheels fall off, essentially. The issue with these high volume workouts is this can teeter on the edge of where the volume is so high. Because the volume is so high, the intensity has to be low for you to be able to complete a workout like this. And this might even be happening on a subconscious level for you. If you know that you still got a shit ton more of exercises to do, you are not going to be able to do the first one as hard as you can without your performance in the other ones dropping off. And like I stated earlier, if we're trying to signal muscle growth, the intensity needs to be high, and these workouts are teetering on this edge of just having too low of intensity. So just because, like, you might think you're training hard, the term hard, like when you're doing a workout like this, like you're doing a shit ton of reps, you're burning a bunch of energy, and you're like getting a burn in your muscle, and at the end of a set, you're breathing hard. But just because this is hard does not mean you're reaching that significant tension that we're chasing, which is created from intensity. Oftentimes, doing sets like this or workouts like this, each set you are likely ending it too early, which is many as like 5 reps left or 5 RAR before you're actually reaching failure, where those reps are the reps that we're looking for to create that significant tension. They have done research studies that show that the lighter the weights that a participant is using, the worse that they are at guessing how close they are to actually like achieving failure, and they're typically able to do more than they believe they can. So after doing a workout like this, you are still going to feel tired, like I stated, just because you're burning through a bunch of fuel and doing a bunch of work. But just because you're tired doesn't mean that you reach that significant tension that we're looking for when it comes to building muscle. So that's the issue with these high volume workouts, is that you need to pace yourself to be able to complete the total volume of it. So the intensity for each set you're doing might not be high enough to stimulate muscle growth. So if this is you and you find yourself in this situation, the ways that we can look to try something else is to look at the ways to increase tension. And when we're increasing tension, like from those charts before, we'll be increasing intensity, and then that by default will decrease your overall volume. And a way that we can do this to increase tension is to, one, just simply improve your form. And when you're doing a set, the goal is to keep the tension on the target muscle as long as you can. And before the form gets sloppy, you can stop the set there. Like, keep the tension on the muscle as long as you can, and then quit when it gets sloppy. So I'm going to use like a biceps curl, for example here. Let's say you're getting to the end of a set, like squeezing out one last rep. That would be a good place to stop compared to like someone who's just going to add in additional body parts and start slinging things around where those additional body parts are helping move the weight. When this happens, the tension is no longer like specifically on the biceps, and it's being redirected towards everything else. And even though like you're doing more reps, the tension that's being put onto your body, it's more systemically, and like the work being done is not by that bicep anymore, and you just aren't reaching that significant tension. So that's the big difference between a target muscle reaching failure compared to like systemically you reaching failure for not being able to provide enough fuel for your entire body just to keep swinging that weight. Another way to increase tension per rep is to simply just drop your rep range. You don't have to be doing like sets of 3 or maxing out your 1RM, but spending time in the 6 to 8 rep range is a place that you should be spending. Some ways to get in the 6 to 8 rep range without using like significantly heavy weights is you can use lighter weights but do slower eccentrics or even pause in that lengthened position. And then once you are able to train with good form and keep that tension on your target muscle, take a long, hard look at what you would consider failure and assess if you're actually getting there or not, or if you're just kind of pussying out and quitting when it starts to suck. And to keep yourself accountable, the best way to do this is to do this by simply recording your sets and just to see how hard you're actually working compared to how hard you think you're working. Or even get a training partner and just to tell them to tell you if you're training like a pussy or not. So in conclusion, there might be a disconnect between what you enjoy doing the most in the gym, which is just doing a shit ton of reps and getting a juicy pump and walking around. There might be a disconnect between that and then what is most conducive to muscle growth, which is training with intensity to reach that significant tension to stimulate muscle growth. If you're doing primarily these high volume workouts with low intensity, it's not like you are not going to gain any muscle because you're still generating tension and those muscles are working, but likely you aren't reaching the amount of intensity that you could be, which will result in you not gaining muscle as fast as you probably could. But on the other side, if getting a juicy pump in your workout is needed for you to keep going to the gym, by all means, keep doing that because you won't gain any muscle if you quit going to the gym. If you'd like to take the guesswork out of your training, and including topics like this of knowing how much volume to do and how hard you should be training, I have my own training programs that I write for anybody to follow, and it's a playlist I have on here called Progression Programming. And I have, for each program I write, I've got a video breakdown for what the program goal is, the exercises I chose, and why they help us get to the goal. And then it's just a complete walkthrough of how to do the program as effectively as you can so you get the most bang for your buck. Within this program that I offer, each week I'll send out a newsletter with relevant information for that particular program, any nutritional recommendations. I'll do a breakdown for a specific exercise within it. There will also be an additional topic that is determined by you guys and sending in what information you'd like me to go over. You can head to my website at evolutionaryaesthetics.com and download my Potent Priorities ebook. It gives you 4 foundational things to focus on: your training, your nutrition, your sleep, and then moving outside of the gym. It gives you the most basic things to cover for each one first, and then as you nail the foundations, you can progressively get more specific with each one and tailor it towards your goals. Thanks for watching, and we'll see each other in the next video.